Gary, are you ready to talk about the fastest growing sport in the USA? Pickleball.
Ready or not, we're going for it with a quick acceleration that's followed by a quick deceleration.
People that are coming to pickleball are a little bit older.
Yes.
They're bringing with them some injuries from the past. The sport itself, because of the very nature of it, is just
Pushes them over the top. If you keep insulting an inflamed tendon, you can actually change the properties of the tendon. They don't function like what you were born with anymore. Why is the Achilles so vulnerable to rupture?
That's a good question,
Okay,
Gary.
what are the two things that the body doesn't like? Slowing down and turning. Pickleball is really short, quick, dynamic, ballistic movements.
Sort of talk about how players can improve their agility and reaction time on the pickleball court.
We want to do movements that mimic the sport.
You know, what is the key to playing pickleball long term and staying on the court?
I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, okay, but
welcome to GV Gems, episode 4, where we focus on the lifetime sport of pickleball. My name is Steve Masterson from Nobol, and this is GV Gems by Gary Vitti. For those of you who may not have been around during the 90s and early noughties, Gary is the legendary former head athletic trainer for the LA Lakers. He spent decades protecting the health of some of the greatest athletes of all time, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, and many, many others, helping the Lakers secure 8 NBA championships along the way. Today, Gary is going to help all of us keep up with the speed, stay quick on our feet, and avoid injury so we can continue playing the sports we love. Gary, are you ready to talk about the fastest growing sport in the USA? Pickleball.
ready or not, we're going for it. Let's do it.
So if we have a look at pickleball, what causes the Achilles and hip injuries in pickleball, and why are they so common in this sport?
Yeah. Probably most of it has to, and this is for both of them, most of it has to do with age.
Okay.
Okay. So especially with the hip, I don't really think that the motions that the way the game is played, okay, are really causing injuries that are specific to the hip because you're playing pickleball. Okay. For instance, if you're playing an overhead sport like tennis, you're a baseball pitcher, you're a big hitter in volleyball, those injuries are very specific to overhead sports, okay, that are caused by the motion of the sport, meaning you could go into that sport completely 100% healthy, okay, and hurt yourself doing that motion.
Okay.
Pickleball, I think the hip thing with the pickleball and the Achilles, okay, I think are a little bit different in the sense that most of the injuries that we're seeing are probably age 55 and up, okay, and probably have had really active lives, okay, from an athletic sports standpoint, and want to remain active. And, you know, maybe tennis is a bit too much ground to cover, okay? And so they've adopted pickleball, okay? But part of them not playing tennis, for instance, is they have some degenerative changes, okay, in their bodies, whether it be foot, ankle, knee, hip, spine, okay? And then when they start playing pickleball, it exacerbates those things.
Okay.
And I think that's the key issue with the hip, okay? The really short, tight, twisting motions, okay, with a quick acceleration that's followed by a quick deceleration, okay?
Stopping in the kitchen.
You know, like let's say basketball, my sport, for instance, that I worked in, there's acceleration, but the court's 90 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm saying every play is 90 feet, but a guy gets up, full head of steam, and then he has to slow down,
Mm,
especially you have to slow down and turn, but there's space
mm,
there. Okay. Where pickleball, everything's pretty tight.
yeah,
Okay. And so it's a very quick acceleration followed by a quick deceleration. And I think there's a lot of hip compression that happens. So it's a ball and socket joint.
yeah,
Okay. And so the ball, which is the end of your thigh bone, which is the biggest bone in your body, it has a
yeah,
ball on the end of your femur there, and it fits into the socket that's created by your pelvis, and it's constantly, jamming into the socket. Okay,
yeah,
the ball, and it there's cartilage that goes around that ball. Okay, just like the end of a chicken bone.
yeah,
Okay? And then to deepen the socket so you don't have a socket that's all bone, so that you need some range of motion, okay? So you don't have like a big, deep, bony socket,
mm,
okay? There's something that's called the labrum
mm,
that is a piece of cartilage, okay, that comes over the socket and makes the socket deeper. But
okay,
it's not bone. It's cartilage, it's soft tissue, so you can get a little bit more range of motion,
okay.
okay? So you're insulting these structures, okay? And quick and dynamic, we use the word ballistic quite a bit in sports, in ways that, starts an inflammatory process and
So you think it's more the people that are coming to pickleball are a little bit older, they're
yes,
bringing with them some injuries from the past,
you
and
got it.
then the sport itself, because of the very nature of it, is just
Pushes them over the top.
okay. Okay.
And it's the same thing with their Achilles. So you're probably people that rupture their Achilles, they probably don't have this pristine tendon, okay, that doesn't have a lot of necrotic, necrotic in Latin, right? Necrosis is death, right? So a lot of, dead cells in there. So let's talk a little bit about terminology here. And I think this is extremely important for people to hear. And maybe they'll understand a little bit about some of the older athletes or younger athletes that have, let's say, we're talking about Achilles. We'll say old Achilles, but maybe in basketball you see it more with knees,
Mm,
old knees.
mm,
Okay, what do they mean? Okay, so we know what tendonitis is.
yep,
We know what a tendon is.
yep,
Attaches muscle to bone.
yep,
Okay, we know what an Achilles tendon is.
mm,
Attaches the calf muscle to the heel bone.
mhm,
Okay, so we know what Achilles tendonitis is. It's inflammation of the Achilles tendon.
mm,
Okay, which is the tendon from the calf to the heel bone.
mm,
Now, you can get Achilles tendonitis, but let's say you keep insulting that tendon.
mm,
Okay. Eventually, and it's not just the Achilles tendon, it could be patella tendon, it happens to other tendons. If you keep insulting an inflamed tendon, you can actually change the properties of the tendon. They don't function like what you were born with anymore.
okay,
So we know the term tendonitis, but there's two other terms that are called tendinopathy or tendinosis.
okay,
Okay. And these are sort of, for lack of a better way, beat up tendons.
okay,
Okay. And you might see athletes that are making $50 million a year. They're great basketball players, but they can't play 4 games in 5 nights or 5 games in 7 nights,
okay,
okay? And they're not saying that they have tendinitis. They're not saying anything about it,
yeah,
okay? They probably have tendinosis or tendinopathy, and that can happen in the Achilles tendon. So you can strain an Achilles, you can have Achilles tendinitis, okay? You can have Achilles tendinopathy or tendinosis,
mm,
okay, where you've changed the properties of the tendon, and you can completely rupture an Achilles tendon. Now, the next question is then why is the Achilles tendon so vulnerable to rupture?
That's a good question,
Okay.
Gary.
I stole your thunder. You're supposed to be I'm asking my own questions and answering them
I'm
for
not
you.
needed
Okay,
anymore.
yeah. Okay. So the answer to that question is what are the two things that the body doesn't like that I've told you 100 times?
Beer and nachos.
Slowing down and turning.
Okay.
So slowing down is what we call eccentric load. Okay. Now I know we talked about it, but I'll briefly run it by everybody again. So I got a dumbbell in my hand. Okay. And I'm going to do a curl.
Yep.
Okay. So as I lift the weight against gravity,
Mm.
this muscle, my bicep, is shortening.
Okay.
Okay. That's called the concentric contraction.
Okay.
Okay. If I put resistance here and pushed against resistance,
Yeah.
that would be my tricep, okay,
Okay.
doing a concentric contraction.
Okay.
Okay. But if I'm lowering, okay, if I'm lowering the dumbbell against gravity
Mm.
after I've done the concentric contraction, that's what we call an eccentric contraction.
Okay.
Okay. That's not my tricep working.
Okay.
Okay. That's my bicep still working, but and we call it a contraction, but it's actually lengthening. It's not shortening.
Okay.
Eccentric load.
Okay.
Okay.
Understand.
Okay. There's a lot more tension that's created in a muscle and a tendon with eccentric load than concentric load.
Okay.
Okay. So you're creating tension doing this, but you're creating more tension doing that.
Okay.
If you went to Gold's Gym, World's Gym, where all the the big
Yeah.
bodybuilders are, they call it negative work.
Okay.
Okay. So you're gonna do a bench press, okay, and then you're gonna lower it slowly against gravity. Okay.
Okay.
Those are eccentric loads where the muscle is lengthening, it's creating even greater tension. Slowing down is eccentric loading.
Uh,
So if you could run as fast as you could in a straight line, you never slowed down and you never tried to turn, you probably never get hurt.
yeah.
Okay. But as soon as you try to slow down or turn, and before you turned, you had to slow down, even if it didn't look like it with the naked eye.
Because you got to
Trust me,
load.
you were slowing down because we can tell with sensors and high-speed cameras. Okay. There's so much tension that's being created, okay, that if the structure can't handle the load, it's going to fail. Okay. And in the Achilles, it could mean that it can't handle the load and it ruptures. Okay. So most of the time with Achilles tendon ruptures, you'll get out there to the athlete and they'll say they all say the exact same thing. It's amazing. It's like they all got the same memo. He said, I thought somebody kicked me in the back of my leg, and I turned around, there's nobody there. They all say that,
Yeah.
okay? Kobe said it
Yeah.
and as soon as he said it, I kinda already knew because I saw it, okay? But once he said that, then I knew for sure he ruptured
Yeah.
his Achilles, okay?
So the rupture happens when the slowing down, the loading.
Well, in this case, okay, and usually with Achilles, they're getting ready to explode.
Yeah.
Okay. So like let's take Kobe's injury. He's got the ball and he's ready to make a move.
Okay.
But right before he makes the move, he's loading the tendon
Split step.
so that he's
Yeah.
loading the tendon so that he can explode off of it.
Yep.
Okay. But when you load a tendon to explode, you're eccentrically loading it with
Okay.
basically kinetic energy. Okay. So it's an eccentric load that's going to be followed by a concentric load. Okay. The explosion, the acceleration. Okay. You could do it 1,000 times. Okay. And then the 1,001, it fails. Okay. Now, no surprise, you know, Kobe came in the league at 17 and he retired at 37. Okay. He didn't rupture his Achilles at the beginning of his career. He ruptured it at the end of his
It's
career,
that age.
okay? When that tendon was basically beat up for all these years, okay? So, I mean, you don't really see high school kids, even college athletes rupturing Achilles tendons. Maybe some college kids, but they've probably played a lot of basketball on the hard top,
Yeah.
cement and continuously insulted the tendon until it changed properties.
So it's not pickleball itself that's causing these injuries. It's because people are coming in. They've got a beat up body, let's say, from doing the sport, coupled with the fact that it's a eccentric load um, rather than pickleball.
Yeah, it's pickleball, but it's pickleball finishes the job. Okay. Once again, because it's such a dynamic load. Okay, loading it up there's a lot of dynamic explosion.
Yep.
Okay, in pickleball as opposed to, let's say, basketball, football. Football's
Yeah.
100 yards,
Yep.
okay? You know, basketball's a 90-foot, there's space.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Pickleball is like it's a really short, quick, really dynamic, ballistic movements, meaning you really have to load the tendon to explode the way you want to. And if you had a really nice, pristine tendon, you're probably gonna be okay, you know?
Okay. But
But
let's
if you have a beat up tendon or you have an arthritic hip joint, okay, or your spine,
mm,
okay, you have arthritic changes in your spine, it's pickleball. People play pickleball because they can't move like they used to, and they think it's an easier sport. In some ways, it's harder on them,
mm,
okay? And then you have, because it's a sport where the injuries occur later in life. What's the one thing that happens a lot to old people? Fall down,
mm.
okay? Now, what prevents you from falling on your
Are
face?
you asking another question, Gary? Let's talk
We don't
about
need you
balance.
anymore. I can do both of it.
Go on, Gary.
Okay, if you're falling down, what prevents you from falling on your face is you fall on an outstretched hand.
Yep.
Okay, and when you do, a lot of stuff can go wrong.
Yeah.
Hand, wrist, elbow, okay, even shoulder to some extent because the load goes up. So these are some of the injuries that really concern me with pickleball is the Achilles. It's the calf. It's the tennis thing that we talked about, the
Mm,
medial head of the gastroc. Okay.
mm,
So your Achilles can handle the load, but the medial head of the calf couldn't.
yep.
So that's what fails. And then you tear your calf muscle. And that's a painful muscle to damage. Um, falling down, putting your hand out to break your fall, maybe you're old, maybe you might have not full blown osteoporotic, but maybe you have osteopenia, you know what I mean? Where you have some weakening of the bone and now you finish it off,
Yep.
playing
But
pickleball.
let's expand that a little bit and sort of talk about how players can improve their agility and reaction time on the pickleball court.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think because everything takes place in such a short area,
Yeah.
okay,
Agility is
like the
really important.
kitchen, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what the
Yeah.
kitchen is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I keep going into it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, footwork drills, okay? One of the things that I like a lot is the ladder,
Yeah.
okay? And the one thing that's great about the ladder is you could start with one drill, and then when you become proficient at it, you change it.
Okay.
Okay, same ladder, okay? You just change the way you approach it. I think, there's a whole sort of specialty sports medicine. Sports medicine is this like umbrella phrase that covers like a lot of different things. Could be sports psychology, could be athletic training, physical therapy, orthopedic surgery. This is all sports medicine, right? One of the things in sports medicine that we're seeing more of, but maybe not enough of, is the eyeballs.
Mm,
There's all kinds of stuff out there to improve peripheral vision, focus, especially with computers now, which we didn't have,
mm,
30 years ago, 40 years, maybe 30 years ago we did, 40,
mm,
50 years ago. Okay. Flashing different lights and doing different things. They have prism glasses. There's
mm,
a glass, there's an eyeglass that has a prism where there's like a shutter
mm,
where you can see, then you can't, then you can see, then you can't, then you can see, and then you can't. So if I'm throwing a ball at you, you see it coming, and then all of a sudden it's gone,
mm.
and then it appears again. Okay, can you react to it? So I think hand-eye coordination, reaction time.
Yeah.
I think all of these things are really pertinent to pickleball.
So Gary, we've talked about some of the injuries that you get in pickleball, but can we talk a little bit about how our audience can prevent these injuries while still being agile and explosive on the pickleball court?
Yeah. I mean, you and I have gone down rabbit holes and talked about a lot of things in preparation for different sports, not just pickleball. I think one of the things about pickleball, because it looks like it's so benign, you know, um, it's sort of a hidden danger.
Mm,
You take it for granted,
mm,
and there's mines all over the place out there, right?
mm.
Especially for us older people. So I think it's important to do everything right.
Okay.
Okay. So, like the warm up, for instance, once again, like we always talked about with other sports, we want to do movements that mimic the sport. Okay. So stop, go, acceleration, different direction. Now, maybe in tennis, when you do that, you should do that with 3, 4, 5, 6 steps,
Mm,
because it may take you that to get to a ball. But maybe with pickleball, 1 step,
mm.
2 steps, just one really hard, quick step. Start slowly, and then you work into the really explosive stuff. And so that you're kind of, remember we talked about neuromuscular stuff, how the nerves fire the muscles in patterns.
Yeah.
So you're giving your body a heads up that, hey, this is what's coming.
Yep.
Okay. Because once it starts, like even when you're doing the warm up drills, you are in control.
Mm,
It's a controlled environment.
mm,
Okay. You've already decided, I'm going to go in that direction or
mm.
that direction. Once the game starts, you didn't decide. The person on the other side of the net decided.
If they're good.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you're reacting to what they do.
Yep.
Now you're in an uncontrolled situation.
Mm,
Okay. So can you control your center of gravity, okay, your footwork, your reflexes, your hand-eye coordination? Can you do all that now in an uncontrolled environment?
mm.
Okay. Because that's where you're headed. And if you can't,
Mm.
you're gonna get hurt.
Okay. So you've got to warm up to that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So warm up. I think if we talk about warm up, I think the next thing we have to talk about is cool down.
Okay.
So how important is a good cool down routine if you're going to play pickleball?
Yeah, no, it's extremely important. And now we're going from the beginning to the end. We're not talking about anything that's in the middle.
No, going to just
Uh,
go
okay,
beginning to end.
beginning to end. Okay. Um, you know, as I've always said, the first thing we want to do is hydrate.
Okay.
Okay. If you're really extremely competitive, and we haven't talked about this with other sports, and maybe we should have, is diet.
Yeah.
But specifically in the cool down cycle, you have a window. We always believed it was about 30 minutes to maybe 45 minutes where you want to get something nutritious
Mm,
back into your body, because you have a window there where your body's most efficient of reloading those nutrients. The research is tending to tell us now that that could be up to to a couple of hours, meaning that you still can the window's still open, but it's not as open as it was if you can, so you wanna hydrate and then maybe get something protein and maybe even
Okay.
some
Protein
carbs.
bars.
Yeah,
Okay.
something, um, I'm not really big on protein bars, and, it depends on the bar because there's a lot of other stuff in there usually, okay, that isn't so seed oils aren't good, sugar's not good.
Okay.
Okay, but let's just keep it at protein, you know, easy on the carbs, but maybe you need some carbs.
Mm.
Okay, so you want to reload nutritionally, hydration and nutrition, and then as usual, our cool down is probably going to entail. Once again, we're working with older people who have bumps and bruises and arthritic changes in their joints, and we probably want to cool those down with ice bags.
Mm.
You know, um, and I think that pretty much covers it, and
Okay.
then easy on the alcohol after, right? Because there's always a party when you're around.
On the pickleball court. So again, just a closing question and, don't get too angry with me, but, what is the key to playing pickleball long term and staying on the court? I think I'm gonna change this question to, what are the key things,
I get it.
that we
Okay.
should be, doing, if we wanna stay on the pickleball court for
Yeah.
longer?
I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, okay? But, it's the injury prevention thing is key,
Yeah.
and that's doing everything right.
Mm.
Okay. And so when we talk about doing everything right, it's not just working hard, it's working smart.
Yep.
Okay. Do your due diligence. And if you do, you'll have better movement efficiency.
Mm.
Okay. And better movement efficiency decreases the likelihood of injury. If you're not moving well, and you are feeling pain here and there and you are getting injured, then maybe it's time to get a lesson.
Okay.
Okay. I know I've said it a bunch of times, but I can't say it enough how important it is to have good mechanics in whatever sport that you're playing
Mm.
because those loads have to go somewhere.
Mm.
Okay. Now, whether it's foot mechanics, if it's swimming, it's stroke mechanics, okay? And golf, it's swing mechanics, same thing, tennis and pickleball, because you're swinging
Mm.
something. If it's baseball, it's pitching mechanics, it's throwing mechanics, but it's all basically at the bottom line, it's about physics. It's force velocity curves,
Yeah.
okay? And those loads have to go somewhere up the kinetic chain.
Yep. I think in some of the future episodes, I think we should bring in some coaches to actually talk about the mechanics, and
Mhm.
it'd be super interesting to get you talking with these coaches to talk about the mechanics of pickleball and then how to do better warm up and recoveries. But we'll do that in some later episodes if you're up for that.
Absolutely. There are biomechanics specialists. I'm not a biomechanics guy. I was
Mm.
more into the motor learning end of things. Okay, but there's biomechanics people, and now we have we have wireless sensors that are more sensitive than we actually need them to be.
Mm.
Okay, and we have high-speed cameras. So we can tell a lot. We can tell everything actually.
Mm.
We can tell you how long your foot is on the ground in milliseconds,
Mm.
and we can compare that to the other foot,
Mm.
okay, to see if one foot's on the ground longer. So you one leg, dominant is the reason why, because legs shouldn't really be dominant, but they kind of are. Like if you look at a soccer player, usually they have one stronger leg
Yeah.
than the other. But then sometimes when you test them in terms of strength, they're both legs are super strong.
Mm.
Okay. Um, but we have a way to do this where it takes the subjectiveness 100% out of it.
Mm.
Okay. We don't have to put you in a laboratory with force plates where, you step on the force plate and we can tell how much force you can generate with your right leg versus your left leg. We don't need that. We put 2 sensors on you. We let you go out and play in real time. When you're done, we take the sensor off, we plug it into the computer, and it tells us everything that you did out there. Okay. It tells us how many degrees of valgus or varus you went in. That means, like, did your knee go in? Did your knee go out? How many degrees was it? And we know that if you're within 0 and 5 degrees in either direction, you're in a green zone, man. We're going to push you. But if you're between 5 and 10, you're in a yellow zone. We're not gonna pull you out, but we're gonna put you on a corrective exercise program because you're in a danger zone. If you're 10 or more, and I know this doesn't make sense, I haven't explained it down the road enough for it to make sense, but this much should make sense, that we have sensors that could tell you how many degrees where you are in danger. Okay. And this is objective. You can't argue with it.
Mm.
Okay. So, yeah, I think it'd be great to bring these people in and show some of the technology that's out there. Some of it is not that expensive to get evaluated. Okay. Um, young, old, middle age, if you're that serious, um, we talked about getting maybe a lesson, and having an evaluation done, with wireless sensors and or high speed cameras. Sometimes they marry them. They put both of them out there. Okay, and then you get a 3D look at what's going on.
Well, we'll definitely look at doing that for some of our later episodes. But for now, thank you for watching GV Gems, episode 4, where we were talking about pickleball. Next month, we'll get Gary back to talk about the sport he loves, basketball. But until then, my name is Steve Masterson, his name's Gary Vitti, and this has been GV Gems.